Want to get off that Wall Street roller coaster? This new investment from a leading ETF provider might be your ticket. Join us this week as we explore the new world of annuity alternatives.
Welcome to Leibel on Fire with Leibel Sternbach, the financial independence and retirement show dedicated to helping you build the life of your dreams as fast as possible with as little stress as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Leibel on Fire.
Hi, everybody. I'm Freddie Bell, and welcome to this episode of Leibel on Fire. And we're with the best-selling author of Authenticity, and he's also the author of Living with Financial Anxiety. And speaking of books, Leibel, welcome to the show. First of all, I understand a new book is on the way that helps, and it talks about Secure 2.0. You're writing all the time.
Yeah, I have a thing for writing. I love writing. Hey, talking about new things, right? So I got this new book, file early or file late. It's all about the Social Security question of, should you file early? Should you file late? And really, how do you leverage it to build retirement and to retire as early as possible? But speaking of, new things, you probably heard about ChatGPT and, this AI stuff that's taking the world by a storm.
Right.
Well, guess what? I've been using the thing behind ChatGPT for almost a year and a half now. And we've been using AI in our firm for, 10, 12, 15 years, a while.
Wow.
And AI and these cutting edge things, right? ChatGPT took the world by a storm because it made it publicly available, made it easily accessible. And it's not that it was something, really that new, right? The ability to have an AI that, was able to write text. Yeah, they did a really good job of it. But if you look at your phone, right, you had autocomplete, right? You had these little pieces of that built into tools all over the place. It just somebody came along and made it, used it in a way that nobody had done it before, right? And they made it a commercial success. That is something that I think is, what's happening right now to the annuity world is that up until very recently, the annuity world, the insurance companies had a lock on their ability to create this investment vehicle. And I hate to call insurance an investment vehicle because it's not really an investment vehicle, but they created this thing that allowed you to participate in the market's upside while protecting your downside, right? And what they did was, right, it's not that they did something like, super original. It's something that every big investment bank did. It's something that anyone who had any large sum of money did. It's just that they packaged it up for everyday people and sold it in little bite-sized pieces, right? Kind of like ChatGPT. ChatGPT, right, took a really sophisticated technology, something that had been around for a while, and then they packaged it up in an easy-to-use way for everyday people. And what happened? Overnight, right, literally in a week, they had 100 million users. The fastest company to get to 100 million users in history, right? Everyone else took, weeks, months, years, right? They did it in 1 week. Why? Because everyone wanted it. It was something cool. It was something really useful and innovative. Well, when it comes to annuities, right, for the longest time, they were the primary way for somebody who was a conservative investor. And they just, they didn't want to lose their money, but they still needed it to grow for them to be able to participate in the market and get that protection. But over the last few years, there have been competing companies who are like, well, we want to get a piece of this action, right? We have the ability to do the same thing, and we're going to give access to a broader world of those investments that the insurance companies are using. And I think that it's really going to shake up the insurance industry. And I think that, that's evidenced by the fact that the insurance industry is actually creating some of these products to compete with their own annuities because people are looking for it.
That's really interesting. So in light of this new product that's coming out that everybody's concerned about or they're curious about, let's go back to the basics. We've heard the word annuity forever, but what really is an annuity?
So fundamentally, an annuity is a contract between you and the insurance company. Okay. And you really need to treat any insurance product as an individual contract between you and the insurance company. Ordinarily, the way that an annuity works is that they say you're going to get a certain amount of interest, right? You give us $1,000. We're going to grow that $1,000 either at a fixed rate of, let's say, 4% or 5%, kind of like a bank CD. Or they'll say, we'll give you, if the market goes up 10%, we'll give you, 50% of that or 75% of that. And they'll give you some kind of increase in value tied to something, either fixed or the markets. The thing that people really wanted from annuities was the protection, right? Because, well, if I can get full market participation or I can go buy a CD or a bond that gives me that same interest rate. So why would I go to an annuity company, an insurance company, over my bank, right? Over my broker. And so in order to attract people, what they offered was two things that a bank couldn't offer, right? Or really a bank could offer it, but your broker couldn't offer it. So the first thing was downside protection, right? So they said, you're not going to lose your money, right? Whatever you put in, you're not going to lose. Banks do that too with CDs, right? So CD, you put your money in, you're going to get your money out. It's not going anywhere. Brokers can't do that, right? The SEC, FINRA, doesn't let us say that an investment doesn't carry risk. There is always the risk of loss. Similarly, an annuity and a bank CD, right, have a risk of loss. If the insurance company goes bankrupt, right, you're not going to get your money back. There's going to be some value that you're going to lose. Same thing with a bank. If the bank has a run on the bank and you're beyond the protections of, FDIC insurance or, the SIPC, then you're going to lose that money, right? You're going to lose a portion of that money. So there's still risk, similar risk. But there's downside protection. And then they started offering other things like income, right? It was like, okay, well, we'll then give you a check for life so that maybe, we'll take your money, we'll take on the risk of investing it. And then you will take on the risk also of you running out of money in retirement, right? Maybe your money you don't have enough money to live on forever. We'll give you that stream of money, that check, so that you don't have to worry about it. And it worked really well. Right. Mm-hmm. Annuities, they make up a significant portion of investable assets in the market. And the way they do this, right, fundamentally, insurance companies are not in the business of taking on risk. The way they do this is by doing these huge contracts. They'll get this contract and they'll say, with these big investment banks, and they'll take one side of the contract and then they'll sell the other side of the contract. And essentially they create a hedge. They get to participate in the market's upside without accepting too much of the downside. And that's what allows them to then pass on some of that money that they make to the consumer. Make sense so far?
Kinda. So are you saying that that there's an investment product that provides similar benefits, or is this a hybrid? What are you sharing with me?
So they're the same sort of contracts that the insurance companies are using. They've been filtering their way down to the consumer. Now, they haven't reached the consumer yet. Okay, so you cannot go out and buy the same contract that, let's say Allianz or, AIG is buying. You can't buy the same contracts that they are, right? You're not an investment bank. You're not an institution. But me as an institutional investor, I suddenly have access to some of those contracts, right? 10 years ago, I couldn't buy those contracts, right? You had to have, billions, tens of billions of dollars that you would put in a single contract in order to get them. Now,
so when you don't have the economies of scale, how does that work for you as an individual investor?
Well, so now what you started having is you had these big firms, right, who they're not as big as Allianz, right? They don't have as many assets, but they're trying to get there. And they're like, well, listen, there's this whole market of people that want these protections, right? They want these things and they're willing to pay for it, but they don't want to have, the lockup. They don't want to, have to lock up their money for 10 years with an insurance company. They don't want to pay the high commissions, right? They want to be able to move in and out of this whenever they want. And they were like, how can we provide that to them? And so they started creating different types of products to satisfy these people. It has gotten so easy to the point where there are literally, either ETFs that you can purchase that provide this type of protection, or things that are similar to ETFs that behave similarly to them, where you can purchase, $1,000 at a time, $10,000 at a time, and get something that is very similar to an annuity, something that has very similar properties, but maybe you have more upside potential, right? With an annuity, they really cap that upside because that's their money, not yours. But with these investments, they give you more of that participation. And you can dial in that upside downside protection that you want to bring it in more in line with what's in line with your risk tolerances or what your needs are. And unlike an annuity where you've got that single company risk where it's like, okay, if the annuity company goes out of business, you're in trouble. These are guaranteed by the exchanges that they're traded on. So even if the company that issued it goes out of business, the exchange is the one backing it. And the exchanges that do this, right, many of them have been declared, too big to fail or have other types of things in place so that even if they, basically, if they go insolvent, right, the federal government is coming in to bail them out. The Federal Reserve is coming to bail them out, or our country is, really down the tubes.
So how do people like me and other folks who are trying to retire and build some type of income, how do we have access to this, or do we?
So right now, there's a limited number. Like we're just starting to see some ETFs that have this stuff built into it. It's actually been in the news recently. Some of these ETFs that, they did really well last year. Now they're doing terrible. And it's mainly because you can't really do these contracts in an ETF. There's other investment vehicles that you can do them in. But an ETF trades, intraday and too frequently. So it doesn't really work for an ETF. But right now, as of today, the only way you can get access to them is through an institutional investor like myself who can give you access. Right. So if you're interested in something like that, reach out to me and I can, connect you with the people and we can make something, I can show you what's available. But what this means is, one, you now have access to it, right? Because I have access to it as an institutional investor. But it also means that this is going to become more and more frequent and available. Right. Whereas, 5 years ago, I didn't have access to it. In 5 years from now, you'll be able to go online and buy these things, with just a click of a button. And I think that's really exciting from a retirement standpoint because it gives the consumer, it gives the end investor, right, access to the tools that they really need in order to build a secure retirement without having to, resort to, well, I have to ride the Wall Street roller coaster. Right? No, you don't have to ride the Wall Street roller coaster anymore. You can get those same institutional protections that, the big companies have been doing, the huge companies have been doing. You can get it now for yourself. Now right now you have to go through somebody like me to get it. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can probably click a button and get them for yourself.
So tell us how we can learn more about this. And I'm assuming this is right for a lot of people, no matter what their retirement plan is.
I think so. I think that right now, right, when we're talking about, the bond market, right, bonds are really tied to interest rates, right, and inflation. And until we really get inflation and interest rates stable, you're going to have a lot of volatility in the bond market. And so when we're talking about our 60-40 portfolio, right, the idea is that the 40% of our portfolio that's invested in, low volatility things that don't move a lot, so that when we take our money out of our retirement savings to live off of, that it doesn't really hurt our long-term ability to stay retired. Right now, that doesn't exist, which means when you're taking your money out of your retirement account, it's really hurting your long-term, viability. It's hurting your ability to stay retired at your current lifestyle for a long period of time, right? It's really hurting that. So this, I think, is a great way to build a buffer in there so that you don't have to worry about where your money is coming from, right? It doesn't really matter because you've got this thing that's going to protect you. And you don't need it for your entire portfolio, just a small percentage of what you need to live off of so that you get market participation, downside protection, so that you're not taking your money out at the wrong time from your portfolio.
Makes a lot of sense. If you'd like more information, you can go to yields4u.com. Yields, the number 4, the letter U.com. Thank you, Leibel. And join us next week as we talk about how to build the ideal retirement portfolio. I'm not going to miss that, and you shouldn't either. Join us next time for Leibel on Fire.
If you would like to see how the Yields for You team can help you get off the Wall Street roller coaster and save you money on taxes so you can live the life of your dreams, book an appointment online at yields4u.com. That's yields4u.com. Or call 410-914-4894. That's 410-914-4894.
Yields for You is a registered investment advisor in the state of New York and only transacts business in states where the firm is properly registered or is excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement. Information presented on this program is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. Discussion should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell or solicitation of any offer to buy or sell the investments mentioned. Annuity guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Content should not be viewed as legal or tax advice. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation.